How did your production skills develop through this project? Throughout the duration of the creation of my magazine campaign, I developed my existing knowledge of Adobe Photoshop CS6 64-bit, whilst also building upon the knowledge with the newer information. These tools and shortcuts that were located through different types of research allowed me to expand on the individual elements of the editing software, which led me to increased understanding of Adobe as a whole. When incorporating these new understandings of the software into the creation of my 3-part magazine campaign, I decided upon different editions of typical magazine conventions that would demonstrate skills I acquired from the level I was at prior, particularly focusing on the editing that I did for my cover model, in making him look like he was involved in a professional photo shoot for a professional magazine cover and overall campaign. His involvement with my magazine campaign ran across all 3 sections that I had to create, which made him a pivotal part to get right when it came to the final edit. To begin with, I took the raw image of my model on the beach, which was my original intention, and placed him onto the dark, grungy background which is typically found behind superhero characters on magazine front covers. This allowed it to apply to convention and reference back to the research I conducted in preparation. I removed the background using both the Content Aware tool and the Background Remover tool, and brushed up the edges with the manual use of the Eraser tool. This was created using a softer brush around the hair, whilst the harder one was used on the clothes to rid the image of the beach in the background completely. I discovered the use of the Background Eraser tool during the removal of another image of my model that was featured on my contents page, which enhanced my knowledge on the platform, making the confidence and professionalism of my magazine to the best of its ability. I cropped the background image to fit centre, fitting him in the centre, and then proceeded to place the cropped version of my model as a separate layer to provide him with the dramatic drop shadow, which made the image stand out from the darkness of the background. The accessibility of the layering process was revised from my previous knowledge on Adobe Photoshop CS6, which made it easier for me to access different sections of my project when it was in production stages. The vast development of my production skills overall originated from YouTube tutorials, as well as learning from my own discovery and different tools and shortcuts that aided in the swiftness of my production. This included the study of various audience interaction theories that applied nicely to my article, contents page and front cover, which would result in successfully drawing an audience and keeping their attention to the magazine. For example, the Blumler and Catch theory of identification and entertainment, as well as escapism. This would entice an audience into viewing my magazine, which relies solely on the way that the cover presents itself, in regards to professionalism. The digital technology and software that I used to create the campaign remained the same across the creation of the project, which kept it consistent and continued to develop my understanding of the platform. The ways in which I developed upon existing production skills came from pre-existing knowledge, as well as spoken shared information about the ways in which Adobe's platform works to create certain effects. This occurred when removing the background from my model's hair in the image taken that featured the sports car, in which I traced my model's outline closely with the polygonal lasso tool through manual tracing. This was a rough selection, but its function was the same. I completed the selection and copied and pasted it onto a new layer. I selected the layer and set down the opacity, when I used the smudge tool to add hair back where it was missing at a small brush size. This improved upon my skills in Photoshop that I didn't have when I first began time on the software. Other than this, overall production skills were developed in the output of my campaign, in finalising the different layers together to form one project. When studying the layout of a contents page, I created the left side first. This began as an idea that was supposed to stick, in that I only intended to create one. But the information I gathered demonstrated on the examples of magazines that I studied and proved that the quantity of conventional film magazines is substantially higher than most magazines that require only one page. This self-conducted study that most film magazines contain more than one contents page developed my production skills, as it gave me a creative outlet to expand on the quantity of the stories that the magazine will be addressing. As a whole, the film industry is a wide industry, with several different sub-elements consisting of different genres in film, television, and celebrity culture. This made it easy to develop stories that fans of the films will be interested in reading more about and investing themselves into. By inputting a wide range of stories from different areas of the film industry, It draws in a wide range of target audience demographics, with their psychographics depicted by how they view certain aspects of the film industry, therefore including mass audiences and tertiary audiences. One member could be interested in romantic comedies, whilst the other would be interested in learning more about the newest war film. By expanding the contents page across 2 pages, it is providing more room to discuss the different elements of interest to the people who might be interested in separate niches. When discussing the process of writing the script for what I was going to write in the article section, I usually revert back to the sporadic writing, using terminology that many would use when involved in the interview process, and the vernacular from their home country. According to my research, articles written in the form of a question and answer format commonly quote the actors and actresses directly from the answers that they give, only removing the stutter or the stumble that they take upon answering the question. This gives the indication that the person being interviewed is in fact a real person with human attributes, providing the audience with a sense of identification and connection with the interviewee, addressing Boomler and Katz's theory of uses and gratifications. The way I used my production skills to capture this illusion that the actor featured was answering the questions was through my experience in English literature, and my ability to incorporate myself into someone's mannerisms, and the way they should respond to questions that are being directed towards them. The typography was also retrieved from my knowledge of articles and the research of articulation in Total Film and Empire, who asked their questions in a similar way. This was important in regards to the production skills, as the development of English language and layout of the article had to interact. I made sure that the spacing was correct by separating each box onto its own layer, making it consistent that each layer had the same amount of space between the others, which gave it a professional style that I had endeavoured to create. This was also evident in the placement of the typography as a whole, where I used my production skills to provide the required information to the audience. For example, the film's essential information about release dates, stars, and critical reviews that audiences commonly rely on. The colour palette of gold, white, and black stays consistent with the house style, developing my production skills as to how to keep a running theme of visual continuity. Overall, the production skills that I both maintained and constructed upon created an extended knowledge in the way that I created my campaign when it came to professionalism and grasping the attention of my target audience through my production skills.